In our number 10 spot, we have Operation London Bridge. Right away on the day of the Queen's passing, Operation London Bridge was to come into effect. Prime Minister Liz Truss would have received the news of Her Majesty's passing right away, and she would have been one of the first people to have been told. This message would have been delivered by the Queen's private secretary. The civil servants would have been notified next, and the media outlets, starting with the royal social media platforms. The flags would then be moved to half-mast. Then the Ministry of Defense would do a gun salute, and a minute of silence would be taken around the country. The royal family zoomed into Balmoral to see the Queen just before she passed, and were there by her side as she left us. The British people observed a double rainbow over Buckingham Palace that day. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give us a thumbs up as it'll really help us out. In our number 9 spot, we have King Charles's first step. The day after the Queen passed, right away it was instructed that Prince Charles will be sworn in as the new sovereign by the Accession Council. This means that he will be proclaimed king until his coronation or until he decides to step down and give the throne to his eldest son, Prince William. If all goes well, this should happen the morning after the Queen's death at 10 a.m. His title will change to King Charles III. In our number 8 spot, we have the Accession Council and further title changes. The second part of the Accession Council is attended by the king and other senior royals. For the first time in history, we will get to see this centuries-old ritual because it will be broadcasted live. So cool. Most of us alive today wouldn't have been around or old enough to have witnessed the Queen's coronation, so this is very exciting. Prince William, the next in line to the throne after King Charles, will be given the new title of Duke of Cornwall, and Kate will become Duchess of Cornwall, replacing Camilla, who technically becomes Queen, but she will be given the title of Queen Consort, a wish made by Queen Elizabeth before she passed. His title will change to King Charles III. This day has also since passed, and I must say I'm actually surprised that King Charles didn't decide to pass the crown on to his son. I think a lot of the British people expected him to, but in any case, Prince William will eventually have his day as king. Following the Accession Council, the king will return to Buckingham Palace to meet with the senior politicians and church leaders. In our number 7 spot, we have Operation Unicorn. Since the Queen passed away at Balmoral, the family has strict instructions upon returning her to Buckingham Palace. This is called Operation Unicorn. Operation Unicorn will be activated, and it will mean that the Queen's coffin will be transported to London via royal train. If Operation Unicorn fails, then a new operation takes effect, and that is Operation Overstudy. This is a strict instruction for the coffin to then be transported by plane. The Prime Minister and ministers will welcome the coffin upon arrival at Buckingham Palace. In our number 6 spot, we have D-Day plus 3. D-Day represents Death Day, so about 3 days after the Death Day, Charles will receive the motion of condolence at Westminster Hall, and then he will begin his tour of the United Kingdom as the new king. He has been instructed to attend a service in Northern Ireland at St. Anne's Cathedral in Belfast. In our number 5 spot, we have the rehearsal plus D-Day plus 5. While King Charles III is on his tour, a rehearsal for Operation Lion will be taking place. Operation Lion is when the Queen's coffin will be carried from Buckingham Palace to the Palace of Westminster. This will be around D-Day plus 5. When the coffin arrives, a service will be held in Westminster Hall. In our number 4 spot, we have D-Day plus 6 to D-Day plus 9. Operation Feather is now going to be in effect. Such interesting titles. I wonder if the Queen chose them herself. When I die, I'm gonna leave strict instructions for my loved ones and call it Operation Magical Fairy. Instead of taking my coffin on a tour, I shall instruct my family to go on a tour around the world with my ashes. I better start saving though, so they can do that. They definitely don't have a royal budget to complete this wish. Anyways, back to Operation Feather. It states that for the next 3 days, the coffin will stay at Westminster and the Queen will lie in state, so visitors can come to pay their respects. The coffin will be placed on a raised box and will be available for 23 hours a day for those 3 days. I would have thought that it would only have been for select people such as friends, family, and politicians, but apparently anyone can visit. There is expected to be about 10,000 plus people, so I would leave now to line up. I bet you the line is going to be insane, like standing in Times Square on New Year's. There probably won't be anywhere to move. I wish I lived in England. I would definitely have gone to pay my respects. The public will be able to pay their respects as of September 14th, 2022. In our number 3 spot, we have more traveling for King Charles. King Charles is expected to travel to Wales during this time to receive a third motion of condolence at the Welsh Parliament. This is projected to happen around D-Day +7. The king will also attend a service at Llandaff Cathedral in Cardiff. Also during this time, the rehearsals for the funeral will be taking place. On the morning of September the 19th, 2022. In our number 2 spot, we have the funeral. The funeral for Queen Elizabeth II will be held at Westminster Abbey. Processions will take place in London and Windsor, and a committal service will take place at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. The Queen is to be buried in the castle's King George VI Memorial Chapel. There will be a 2-minute silence at midday in the country. Before she passed, the Queen agreed that her funeral day would be a day of national mourning, and so it effectively became a bank holiday. Apparently though, if the funeral falls on a weekday, the government does not plan to order businesses to let their employees have a day off. The businesses can individually decide on this though. In our number 1 spot, we have mourning plus the king's official coronation. Following the funeral, the country will go into a period of mourning. Even though King Charles would have automatically become king when the queen passed, his official coronation will not take place for some time. It is predicted to be months later or as late as a year after. Queen Elizabeth had her coronation more than a year after she had been ruling. The delay is most likely due to the fact that there will be an enormous amount of planning for the event that will need to take place. The ceremony will most likely take place at Westminster Abbey, as it has done for the last 900 years. It will be done most likely by the Archbishop of Canterbury, as it has been done since year 1066.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the rules of the road. This rule is probably one of the craziest things I've ever heard, but I guess it's been around for quite a while and I just had no idea. Turns out the monarch is the only person in the UK who is allowed to drive without a legal license or even license plates. I mean, what? That's so insane. I didn't expect the king to have to take a driver's test like everyone else, but just having a rule that allows them, if they chose, to drive without any idea how? It truly is just absolutely bizarre. The good news is though, which makes this rule make a lot more sense, is that, of course, rather than driving himself, King Charles' chauffeur will be much more responsible for most of the driving for the king. Let's just hope the chauffeur has their driver's license. In our number 9 spot today, we have the armed forces. One of the most intimidating parts of his new role is that King Charles will now become the head of the armed forces. This means that it is his responsibility, and he is the only person who can declare when the country is at war and when the war is over. Of course, he won't be doing this entirely alone. He needs to follow the advice and guidance of the government, can't just randomly declare war. The perhaps good news is that the new king has held quite close ties to the armed forces throughout his life, even spending time in the Royal Navy and taking flying instruction from the Royal Air Force during his second year at Cambridge University. Of course, the hope is that he won't be in a position to make these difficult decisions, but when or if he's faced with them, we can hope he makes the proper decisions for the country. In our number 8 spot today, we have the church. King Charles won't only be the head of the armed forces, but he will also become the head of the church in England. Quite a jump from talking about war and being the one who makes those kinds of decisions to being the head of the church, where things are hopefully quite the opposite, more peaceful. This is a post that British monarchs have held since the church was founded by King Henry VIII in the 1500s, and it appears as though the tradition will carry on. In this role, it means that King Charles will be responsible for appointing archbishops and bishops to their role. The king will be, of course, advised in this role by the Prime Minister. It is said that the king is religious in his own right, and that he has already spoken about how his personal faith has informed his approach to leadership. In our number 7 spot today, we have gifts. The king has a duty to accept all of the gifts he receives, and not only that, but he has to accept them graciously. Apparently, it is actually quite customary for the royal family to receive every gift that is handed to them during royal engagements. Of course, people are always wanting to gift the royal family things, but like the Queen once had the power to do, it is now up to King Charles who in the family is allowed to keep the gifts they've been given. That would be a super strange meeting, but hey, there are some weird rules the royal family has to follow. In our number 6 spot today, we have never travel in pairs. This is one travel rule that certainly makes sense, but it is quite dark when you really think about it. This rule is says that any heirs to the throne are not allowed to travel together, which means that the king is going to be traveling differently than he once used to. This is of course in case some sort of accident happens. Not every heir to the throne would be injured or perhaps killed. It's definitely very smart and very sensible, but it has got to be grim, just constantly preparing for the worst thing to happen. It is of the utmost importance to the royal family that they preserve the line to the throne. This travel rule is actually becoming more frequent among even other people outside of the royal family who can afford this type of luxury. In our number 5 spot today, we have the black outfit. Another travel rule that the family must follow is in regards to an item they must bring with them. It is unusual to see the royal family dressed in black, despite when a specific occasion calls for it, but every time they travel, they are required to bring an all-black outfit with them. This is again to prepare for the worst case scenario. If they are away on a trip and someone important passes away, they need to ensure that they are ready with the appropriate clothing for when they are able to touch down on their home soil. This is pretty practical, but also definitely pretty morbid. I mean, imagine having to fuss over what you're gonna wear when you're actually just mourning the loss of someone close to you. Certainly wouldn't be the top of my list for me, but clearly I am no royal. In our number 4 spot today, we have no touching. There is a rule that you just cannot touch a royal. I'm sure there are a multitude of reasons for this, most to do with security, but aside from a lucky handshake, you really are supposed to keep your distance. I suppose it's because I live the life of a regular person, but I feel like that would be so sad. I feel like you'd be lacking in so much connection with a ton of interesting people, and wouldn't you just be dying to hug some of the nice people you meet? Maybe that's just the Canadian in me. Apparently this is part of the reason why the queen always wore gloves. She of course shook a lot of hands while out making her royal appearances, and the same will likely go for the new king. Maybe he'll take up gloves as a fashion accessory, just like his mother. In our number 3 spot today, we have the dinner choices. There are plenty of strange rules when it comes to royal dinner etiquette, but this one might be the most strange. I'm not exactly sure if King Charles enjoyed much seafood during his time as the Prince of Wales, but if he did, those days might be coming to an end rather soon. Apparently, the palace recommends that His Highness not indulge in shellfish. No shrimp, no lobster, you get the idea. This is meant to be for his safety, of course, because apparently it is believed that shellfish causes food poisoning more than any other type of food, so unfortunately the king won't be heading to the local Red Lobster anytime soon. In our number 2 spot today, we have no autographs. This is a rule that the king won't be much of a stranger to, as it's a rule for the entire royal family. Of course, in this day and age, people often ask their favorite celebrities for autographs, or more likely now, a selfie, but the royal family isn't allowed to stop for these kinds of interactions. For autographs, it makes a ton of sense. It's a safety measure to ensure that no forgers can learn to mimic the handwriting of royalty. I totally understand that. For selfies, it's less of an official rule and more just to do with etiquette. When meeting a member of royalty, it is important to never turn your back on them, so asking the new king to squeeze in behind you for a photo would definitely be discouraged. An act of admiration might just have the new king feeling a little bit slighted. In our number 1 spot today, we have opinions. This is probably my favorite of all of the rules we have today, which is exactly why I saved it for the number 1 spot. During the king's time as the Prince of Wales, Charles has certainly been known for having quite a vocal approach to different social issues and whatever the current affairs have been. He's an outspoken individual, and that doesn't always sit well with people. Fair enough, but now that he's the king, he does have some different expectations. He is now expected to not make his constituents feel uncomfortable or alienated, which means that he won't be allowed to be such a champion of certain issues. This basically means that the king needs to keep some more of his opinions to himself, which I'm sure is gonna make some people happy.
Coming up at our number 10 spot, he must fly alone. Okay, not alone, but Prince William cannot fly with another royal heir. Yes, the royals, Prince William and Prince Harry, are not allowed to travel together in case something happens to the plane. The succession of the royal family is very important to them, and this is a good way to protect the bloodline. In all of the Queen's reign, this rule only had an exception one time. Even with Prince William's kids, Princess Charlotte and Kate flew together once, and Prince George stayed home. The royals are allowed to travel with their offspring up to 9 months, it is said, but then after that this rule comes into effect. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. bias. In our number 9 spot, we have limited contact. This one seems obvious to me, but I could be biased from living in England as a child and from having a British family. But you're not supposed to get too close to William and the British family. They have a strict rule of limited touching with the public, as they do shake a lot of hands, and honestly, it's probably for safety and sanitary reasons. The British press is quite protective of the royals, and there has been an occasion where they have been very angry with a celebrity when they don't respect that rule, and they become too touchy with the royals. LeBron James, for example, got some backlash for this and was told that he was breaking royal protocol. Some question whether he even knew about this, but usually people are told the rules before meeting the royals, so it's most likely that he was debriefed. But in any case, he at least offered up some cupcakes from his hometown of Ohio to make up for it. That's cute. Makes me think that Ohio has some, pretty good cupcakes, and now I want to go to Ohio. In our number 8 spot, we have British Airways. Prince William must always fly with British Airways. Unless he's taking an American domestic flight, all of the royals actually must fly the British airline, British Airways. Since the royals are funded by the British tax dollar, they try to do what they can to make sure that the Brits always benefit, and that is why they fly only British Airways. I've actually flown with British Airways once, and it was a lovely trip, so I would recommend. But honestly, now knowing that this is how the royals fly, am I taking any other airline ever again? Probably not. In our number 7 spot, we have no Monopoly. This is a funny one to me. Prince William is not allowed to play Monopoly. None of the royals are. I truly wish we could be a fly on the wall and learn the reasoning behind this. We can only assume that it is one of possibly 2 reasons, maybe there are more. 1, they've already got everything and it would possibly encourage greed. And 2, perhaps they are a very competitive household and it would encourage competition. A little competition can be healthy, but Monopoly, does seem to bring out the worst in people. Someone always fights in my house when we play Monopoly. But in any case, the reasoning is unknown, just that no one's allowed to play it. In our number 6 spot, we have 12 bodyguards. Prince William, of course, has to follow strict rules about bodyguards that have been put in place to keep him protected. One of them is to always have 12 bodyguards around him, especially when he travels. The royals always have trained snipers, bodyguards, and doctors with them when they travel. Their safety is of the utmost importance. Apparently, it is said that William and Kate's wedding was about $36 million in total, and the security alone was about $32 million of that amount. Wow. If only we lived in a world where everyone respected everyone and people didn't need protection, because that's a lot of money. In our number 5 spot, we have no selfies or autographs. Prince William is not allowed to take a selfie with you, so don't even try. Selfies are frowned upon. The US ambassador once told OK magazine that, quote, "The Queen disapproves of selfies because the eye contact doesn't suit her." Whether this rule will be lifted since the Queen has passed, it's unclear. Prince William is also not allowed to sign autographs, but honestly, that's probably for the better. He would probably have carpal tunnel syndrome at this point if he had to sign autographs for all of these years. Also, the royals aren't celebs, they're royals. They work for the people, so it makes sense that they don't do autographs, as that is purely something celebrities do. In our number 4 spot, we have no shellfish. Prince William is not allowed to have shellfish. In fact, none of the royals are. Shellfish have been deemed too high a risk to ever be eaten by the royals. William and the rest of the royals are also not allowed to have rare cooked meats, tap water in foreign countries, and spicy exotic foods. So this is where the stereotype of British people only liking bland food came from. All I can say is that my entire British family loves spicy food, so that stereotype doesn't work for them. The poor royals though. They will never know what a delicious spicy ramen tastes like. In our number 3 spot, we have an all-black outfit. Prince William must travel with an all-black outfit in case of a funeral. Not just him though, all of the royals must abide by this rule. Super morbid, but hey, I guess it's convenient if something does happen. I wonder if this is a rule from back in a time when cars didn't exist and one would have to travel by horse and buggy, so it would make it hard to go back home and retrieve your funeral outfit. Or perhaps a time when it wouldn't have been as easy to just pop into into a store and buy a black suit. But in any case, an interesting rule that has stayed in place for many, many moons. In our number 2 spot, we have a strict dress code. Prince William has a very strict dress code. You will usually find him in dressed up attire with dress shirts and dress pants or dress shorts. For formal military events, since he served time in the military, he has been known to wear his uniforms to special events. He wore his Irish Guards uniform for his wedding to Kate in 2011, as he is an honorary rank of Colonel of the Irish Guards. For Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, the Prince of Wales wore the Royal Air Force No. 1 uniform with the Garter sash with the Royal Air Force pilot wings and the Garter Star Chest Order. Finally, in our number 1 spot, we have no public displays of affection. Prince William is not allowed to show any public displays of affection for Kate. The world went mad. I mean, I personally did, when Prince William and Kate shared their wedding kiss on the royal balcony in 2011. Everyone was calling their wedding absolutely perfect and that their connection is beautiful. But sadly, that is all we got to see, as they have never even held hands in the public eye since. They were allowed to before they were married, but not since. I really wonder if the rules will change once Prince William is king. It will be quite fascinating to see if Prince William makes a change and allows for more hand-holding and touching when he's king, as times have changed and perhaps the rules may be outdated now, but perhaps not. Would love to know your thoughts though in the comment section below.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the royal proposals. This is a rule that dates all the way back to the Royal Marriages Act of 1772, so it's obviously a rule that's been around for quite some time. This rule states that all royal descendants must seek approval from the monarchy before proposing to their, hopefully, future spouse. This means that the now king, of course, had to ask his mother, Queen Elizabeth II's permission before marrying both Princess Diana as well as his now wife, Queen Consort Camilla. But the tides have changed for King Charles. He is now the man people will be coming to in order to seek his approval of their proposed nuptials. Now all I want to know is, what happens if he says no? That would be so awkward. Do you still propose? Do you throw the whole relationship out just because he said no? I have a lot of questions, but hopefully this is a situation we won't see arise anytime soon. In our number 9 spot today, we have a step behind. It is common royal practice to never turn your back to royalty, but of course at some points, royalty has to turn their back to each other, so there's gotta be some sort of hierarchy, right? During the marriage between Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II, he always had to walk a few steps behind her. I mean, she is the queen after all, and traditional rules would have a woman walk in front of a man. Again, we're talking traditional rules here, not modern ones, and the royal family really is a lot about traditions. With King Charles taking over the throne, while previously he likely waited for his wife Camilla to walk in front of him, the rules just may have changed. When allowed, the pair will likely be seen walking side by side, but since tradition would have it that the king ranks higher than a queen, he will likely be walking in front of her for the remainder of their marriage. In our number 8 spot today, we have one throne. This is a rule that has been around for the monarch for many years, and it really does make a lot of sense. The monarch is forbade or not allowed to sit on any foreign thrones. They aren't allowed to sit in any other throne other than their own. I mean, I can understand why, but this rule extends into fictional thrones even. A few years ago, Queen Elizabeth II even went to visit the set of Game of Thrones, and although the highly coveted Iron Throne was offered to her, she politely declined to sit on it for this exact reason. Queen Cersei would be pissed if she knew. Even if it's the throne of the Seven Kingdoms, the monarch isn't quite allowed to enjoy it. In our number 7 spot today, we have signals. When speaking to the queen and now presumably the king, you don't decide when the conversation is over. They do. The queen had her subtle way of signaling to people that she would like to end the conversation, and the new king will likely have to find his own way to politely do the same thing. The queen did this by moving her purse from her right arm to her left arm. This meant that it was time to stop talking. I'm assuming King Charles likely won't begin carrying a purse, so at this point only time will tell what becomes his signature move, but he certainly will need to have one. In our number 6 spot today, we have Monopoly. Apparently the royal family has a ban on the classic family board game Monopoly. I thought maybe it was because the royal family is too classy, maybe they were just too busy, maybe it was because it was an American game. I was just trying to rack my brain as to why they wouldn't be allowed to play Monopoly, but as it turns out, the reason is not surprising at all. When the Duke of York was presented with Monopoly as a gift, he was the one who revealed that it was banned in the royal household, and you want to know why? quote, "It gets too vicious." Of course! No one in their right mind can play Monopoly and still have a functioning family relationship after that. Monopoly is the most cutthroat game I've ever played. Can't believe I didn't guess that reason first. In our number 5 spot today, we have bad breath. On the last part of this list, I talked about how King Charles will likely have to stay away from eating shellfish, as it is thought to be a dangerous food that has the highest chance of causing food poisoning. As it turns out, however, the list of no-no foods is growing, and it now includes garlic. That's right, one of the bases of every good dish is banned for members of the royal family. They of course have many meetings and important visitors, and they want to make sure they don't have the uncomfortable moment of having stinky garlic breath. I mean, I guess they haven't heard of breath mints? Either way, the more I talk about it, the more I'm glad I'm not a royal. Just wait until they hear about coffee breath. In our number 4 spot today, we have no PDA. Okay, I've got a question. When you're with your partner or your significant other in public, are you the couple who is like all over each other, full of public displays of affection, or are you a little more reserved and you kind of save that stuff for home? Well, if you're the king, neither. There's a strict no PDA policy for all members of the royal family, but of course as king you have to lead by example. This PDA rule is strict too, so it is likely we won't even see the king and his wife holding hands at all. This is also the reason why we don't often see Kate and William holding hands, but ever since Harry and Meghan renounced their royalty, they likely can be seen with their hands clasped together. This rule is even more important when they are traveling. This could be a way to make sure they respect local customs, or perhaps it's just a rule to ensure they appear royal and respectful. In our number 3 spot today, we have politics. In history, the head of the monarchy held a special power when it came to politics, but over the last few hundred years, the role has become much more symbolic rather than political. You would of course think that perhaps members of the royal family might want to run for some sort of political position so as to gain this power back, but they are not allowed to do so at all. Not only can they not vote in any political elections, they also aren't allowed to run for political office. Personally, I think that makes a lot of sense. Imagine trying to run for office beside an actual member of royalty. It would be the biggest uphill battle. In our number 2 spot today, we have dinner etiquette. There is a very specific way of doing things when it comes to being a royal person at dinner time. The Queen had a specific conversation schedule, and so will King Charles. At the beginning of the meal, the new king will begin the evening by speaking to the person on his right. He will continue on and carry a conversation with whoever this may be until the second course arrives. At this point, he will then end that conversation and turn to the person on his left, who he will then speak with for the duration of the second course. Also, you better hope you finish your meal before the king does, because once he's done eating, so is everyone else. Don't spend too much time talking, you're on a time crunch. In our number 1 spot today, we have nicknames. Any member of the royal family is strictly forbidden from using a nickname. How boring is that? I thought this was strange, especially considering how one royal herself, Kate Middleton, is always called Kate. But apparently that is something that is only done by the media. What she actually goes by now, and what the rest of the royal family call her, is Catherine, her full name. If anyone was planning on calling up the new King Charlie, Chuck, or Chuckles, they might want to rethink their plans. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Queen Consort. Considering how long the Queen was in her position for, and just history in general, it's been a long time since we've had a Queen Consort. This has left some people confused over what consort really means, or why she has this title, so let's break it down. It was thought that Camilla would have been given the title of the inferior princess consort due to the controversy surrounding hers and Charles' marriage, since her passing the Queen in a special announcement said that Charles would inherit the throne after her death, and said it was her, quote, sincere wish that, when the time comes, Camilla will be known as Queen Consort as she continues her own loyal service. Camilla, now as Queen Consort, has the female equivalent of her husband's title, but she does not share the sovereignty of the king, nor does she share in his powers, either politically or military. Camilla will be crowned in her own ceremony, one that will be similar to her husband's, albeit a simplified version, but despite the queen title, the consort part means that she does not hold any of the same power. This also raises the question as to why the queen's husband, Prince Philip, was not named King Consort. This is due to the fact that historically, a king ranks higher than a queen, and of course, she was the queen, the head of the monarchy, not him. This left Philip without the king title so as to not steal the shine from her royal highness. In our number 9 spot today, we have the heir to the throne. Now that we're on the same page of why she is called the Queen Consort, we have another question of if something were to happen to King Charles III, would she then take over the throne? The answer is no. The consort part also means that she is not an heir to the throne. That is a right reserved for people born into the royal bloodline, while Camilla married into the family. Right now, Prince William remains the heir to the throne after Charles' reign is finished, and unless something insane and unexpected happens, that likely won't change. Here's the thing though, should King Charles pass away before Camilla does, what exactly happens to her title is a bit convoluted. This is because her stepson is the heir to the throne. Normally, should Prince William have been her son, she would go on to be Queen Mother, but that doesn't seem fitting as William's biological mother is the beloved late Princess Diana. Only time will tell what exactly happens in regards to that, but hopefully that is an issue that we won't have to deal with for a long while. In our number 8 spot today, we have the royal vocabulary. Of course, for the royal family, there are words and phrases that they're asked to stay away from. I'm sure a few of my personal favorites likely came to mind, but aside from curse words, there are normal everyday words that members of the royal family aren't allowed to use. According to Kate Fox, author of Watching the English: The Hidden Rules of English Behavior, there are dozens of everyday words that they aren't allowed to use, and this includes the word toilet. Apparently this is due to the French origins of the word, which seems a little extreme. Instead, royals are likely to be heard asking for the lavatory. This might be the least bizarre on this list, however, as dessert is also a word that they are meant to stay away from, instead switching it for something like pudding. Other words Kate listed also include patio, perfume, lounge, and couch. In our number 7 spot today, we have the feast tradition. This is perhaps one of the most bizarre royal family traditions I've ever heard of, and there's a lot of weird ones. Apparently, both before and after Christmas dinner, the royal family all weigh themselves. This personally sounds like a nightmare, but apparently this is to see how much people enjoyed themselves. Like, Grandma, you can tell by my stretchy pants I wore, I'm here to enjoy myself. You don't need to weigh me. Apparently this tradition dates back to the reign of King Edward VII, who was Queen Elizabeth's great-grandfather. He wanted to ensure his guests ate well, so he weighed them to make sure that everyone left sufficiently full. Definitely a very strange tradition that apparently Princess Diana didn't take too kindly to, and truly, can we even blame her? In our number 6 spot today, we have royal women. Women everywhere are no stranger to feeling unnecessary pressures to look and act a certain way, but that is most definitely extremely heightened when you're a woman in the royal family. There are tons of random rules for women, such as what hats they can wear and at what times, we'll get into that later, and what kind of clothes they can wear, but one of the absolutely weirdest rules in my opinion is about their coats. Apparently, it's unladylike to remove your coat in public, which is truly a memo I did not receive. So if a woman in the royal family wears a coat to a function, that coat has to stay on the entire time. Imagine, you guys, you're absolutely sweating, but you have no choice because it would seem unladylike? I feel like that is just some outdated rule that for some reason still continues to linger around. In our number 5 spot today, we have Fascinators. Speaking of clothing rules for royalty, it is a long-standing tradition that royal women always wear a hat to a formal function. This rule originates from a time when women showing their hair in public wasn't the thing. Of course, around the 1950s that began to change more, and now this rule is only seen for functions rather than like all public appearances. Although this rule is for formality, the hats are anything but conservative, however. Royal women over the years have donned some unbelievable and downright wild hats. I mean, we all saw what Princess Beatrice wore on her head to Prince William and Princess Kate's wedding in 2011. Or for Camilla, even the hat she wore to the Queen's funeral. The hat wear for royal women is certainly anything but boring. In our number 4 spot today, we have pets. As we all know very well, image is everything for the royal family, and that is down to the finest, smallest detail, including pets. It is well known that the Queen absolutely loved corgis, and how could we possibly blame her? But apparently, however, if a dog is not a corgi or a Labrador, it is socially looked down upon. Can't describe how insane that is, they're dogs. If you brought a dog who had just been rolling around in the mud everywhere with you, I could see why this wouldn't be as widely accepted among fancy social circles, but only giving the choice of a few random breeds seems kind of ridiculous. Apparently Meghan Markle even had to give up her beagle named Guy a few years ago before she joined the family, but of course she has since left and I'm sure is happy to own whatever dog she sees fit. In our number 3 spot today, we have greetings. One of the major changes for Camilla now that she is queen consort will be seen in how she greets other members of the royal family. It is customary for members of royalty to curtsy or bow upon greeting each other, but Camilla will no longer be required to do that. that. She is the queen now, after all. Of course, other members will continue to need to curtsy or bow to her as they greet her, but Camilla is off the hook. That is, of course, until she meets other monarchs around the world. In these situations, when meeting other royal families in different places, she will still curtsy as a sign of respect. In our number 2 spot today, we have bright colors. If Camilla has a lot of black items in her wardrobe, she can say goodbye to wearing most of them unless she is going to a funeral. While less of a formal rule and more of just an unspoken one, this tradition has royal women refraining from wearing black outfits unless attending a funeral. The Queen certainly was a part of this tradition, as can be seen in her many brightly colored outfits, and while it isn't a requirement to wear outfits as bright as the Queen did, it is likely we will see Camilla following suit in some of these bright choices. Not only does it ensure that she is easy to spot in a crowd should she need any kind of assistance, it is also just pleasing and very welcoming to see someone dressed brightly. While traveling, although she likely won't wear it, Camilla must bring at least one all-black outfit with her, however, and this is in case of emergency. If someone unfortunately passes away while she is traveling, she needs to have this black outfit with her so that when she touches back on home soil, she can be dressed in appropriate mourning attire. In our number 1 spot today, we have the tiara traditions. One more rule for Camilla and what/when she is allowed to wear things on her head, we have to talk about tiaras or crowns. Tiaras must only be worn at indoor formal events during the evening. Apparently hats are never worn indoors after 6 p.m. because at that point, ladies would have changed into their evening dresses, which of course requires a completely different dress code and hat situation. Once out of the daytime fascinator attire, along with the evening dress comes tiaras as well as the family jewels. The only exception to this is on the wedding day. The bride of course can wear her tiara at any point during the day, but of course Camilla's wedding day has since passed. In fact, many royals don't even wear their first tiara until their wedding day, like Kate Middleton. What's interesting is that Camilla actually didn't wear a tiara during her wedding to Charles, but that could be because of how small the ceremony was, along with all of the controversy surrounding their marriage at the time.
But that is coming into number 10. The Queen can't wear t-shirts. It's against the rules. She can't wear t-shirts, jeans, trainers, sneakers, jeggings. It's an outrage. Why is this exactly? Well, the Queen actually cannot be seen in any casual attire. Being a member of the royal family comes with a strict dress code. She must always look presentable. Usually these days she's seen in bright colours, so she's easily visible in crowds. So basically, no sweatpants or jogging bottoms for Queenie baby ever. I mean, what does she wear on a Sunday? Coming in at number 9, she must always travel with a black outfit. The Queen must always have a black outfit to hand and would not travel without one. This is in case she needs to attend a funeral without notice. If somebody in the royal family dies or there's a national tragedy while she's away, she's gonna need that black outfit. Speaking of travel, she can't fly on a plane with her family. This is coming into number 8. While she can fly with her husband, the Queen cannot fly with Prince Charles, Prince William, or her great-great-grandson Prince George. These are the 3 next heirs to the throne in the line of succession. This actually extends beyond air travel too. She's discouraged from being in the same car, boarding the same train, or even more. This is in case anything should happen to them, meaning the line of succession is in danger. Coming in at number 7, she can't vote. Although this is not strictly prohibited by law, it is unconstitutional for the Queen to vote. The Queen is supposed to have an unbiased role in Parliament, and as a result of that, she can't vote and nor can she run for office. Not only is she unable to run for office and vote, the actuality is much stricter at number 6. She actually can't have any political views. The Queen must not express political leanings in public ever, nor must any member of the royal family. On a few occasions, she has dropped the veil of neutrality. She was reportedly very relieved that Scotland stayed in the United Kingdom, and many suspected the Queen was sending secret messages via her outfits declaring her support for the European Union, but I personally think that's a bit of a stretch. Coming in at number 5, she is not allowed to sign autographs. Want an autograph of the Queen? Sorry, she's not allowed to give you one. Nor is she allowed to take a selfie with you. The reason for the autograph ban is in case the royal signatures are forged. The selfie thing, I guess, is just for security. So we heard earlier that the Queen can't be political, however, she has to be religious. More importantly than that, at number 4, she has to be Christian. The Queen is the head of the Church of England. She represents the church and upholds its values. Up until 2011, a law forbade any royal family member marrying a Catholic. It strictly had to be Protestant only. If the future monarch of England wanted to have a different faith, it would be against the current rules. With that in mind, coming in at number 3, she cannot get divorced. As As a result of her position of the head of church, she and Prince Philip can't get divorced. This is something that is discussed in the awesome TV show The Crown. Of course, it is legal for her to get divorced, but it would be very, very frowned upon. While her son, the possible future King of England, is divorced, he did not remarry until his first wife had died, which somehow kind of makes it okay in the eyes of the Church of England, although many aren't happy about it. Coming in at number 2, her husband must walk behind her. This is reportedly something Prince Philip initially struggled with. The Queen goes first, always, and her husband must follow. On any official trip, the Queen walks in front of Prince Philip. Only when they're in private may she walk beside him. Finally, coming into number 1 of the top 10 rules that Queen Elizabeth has to follow, she's not allowed to play Monopoly. What? This is kind of a silly thing and a non-rule, but I thought it'd be a fun way to end this list. Apparently, the Queen is not allowed to play Monopoly as it's banned in the palace. Her son Prince Andrew revealed this in 2008 during a visit to the Leeds Building Society in the United Kingdom. I for one love the thought of the Queen getting totally triggered over someone landing on the dark blues and just throwing a full-on strop. Like, flip that board, honey, flip it. The tiaras come off.